The November 28th meeting of the Planning and Economic Development Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Ansello? Here. Ms. Boyce? Here. Chairwoman DeFlorio?
Here.
Ms. Cayley? Here. Mr. Moyle?
Here. Welcome, everyone. We are starting out tonight with a public hearing for the 8-year review of the Monroe County Western Ag District number 5. So in terms of the public hearing, welcome to the Monroe County Planning and Economic Development Committee public hearing regarding the modification and continuation of the Western Agricultural District located in the towns of Chili, Clarkson, Gates, Greece, Hamlin, Ogden, Parma, Riga, Sweden, and Wheatland. I hope do we have anyone in attendance participating in the public hearing tonight? If we have any guests, if they would please sign at the door before they leave. The November 28, 2016 public hearing before the Monroe County Planning and Economic Development Committee will come to order, and will the clerk please note attendance. Just a little background on the public hearing for tonight. Article 25AA of the New York State Agriculture and Markets Law allows the Monroe County Legislature to create agricultural districts. The law then requires the legislature to review each district 8 years after its creation and every 8 years thereafter to see if it is achieving its intended purpose, which is to help conserve and encourage the use of agricultural land for the production of agricultural products. A public hearing must be held prior to the legislature resolving to add parcels to or remove parcels from agricultural districts during the 8-year review. The purpose of this public hearing is to give the public an opportunity to comment on the Western Agricultural District.
A mailing regarding this public hearing was sent to supervisors, clerks, and landowners of the affected towns and the Commissioner of Agriculture and Markets on November 21st, 2016. Affidavits of publication and posting of hearing notice in the Rochester Business Journal and Daily Record on November 25, 2016 have been received and are on file in the clerk's office.
Thank you. Following the public hearing, the Planning and Economic Development Committee will take action and make recommendations to the Monroe County Legislature for action at the December 13th, 2016 meeting. We will now hear public comments regarding the proposed modifications to the agricultural district from the audience. Is there anyone in attendance who would like to address the committee on this subject? Seeing none, we will close. I declare this public hearing closed. As stated previously, the Planning and Economic Development Committee will take action on this matter, and it will come before the full legislature on December 13th, 2016. Following its adoption, a report and revised district map will be submitted to the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets for certification. Next, we will move on to the public forum. Is there anyone signed up for the public forum this evening?
There is not.
Seeing none. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. You should have all received the October 24th, 2016 minutes before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. The next item on our agenda is a presentation on the budget. The presentation will be by Robert Franklin, Chief Financial Officer. He's here to present the 2017 proposed Monroe County budget as it pertains to planning and economic development. So welcome, Mr. Franklin. Step down and get out of your way.
Time this year. I'd like to keep these relatively short and sweet. This is our presentation of the 2017 budget. as it pertains to the Planning and Economic Development Committee. I'd like to put this in a little context for you. I'll start with an overview of the whole budget for the county. Pretty much same as last year. It's a $1.2 billion budget, a little bit less. Just looking overall from 2016 to 2017, our budgeted spending is proposed to increase about $10 million. This particular format is going to look a little different for those of you who have last year's handouts. Just in terms of presentation, I want to make a quick comment. There's a line here for debt service, okay? It's really debt service / cash capital. I'll be honest with you, it was really long and it kind of messed up the way this was presented. I like things nice and neat. So I just wanted to make that verbal comment. It's cash capital. This budget does maintain the county's tax rate for $1,000 of full value at $8.99. We are in compliance with the Taxpayer Protection Act, and we will be in compliance with New York State's tax cap for 2017. A few things, some of these are big changes. You see mandated spending is actually decreased a little more than $7 million. You see non-mandated is decreased a little too. And then you see debt service / cash capital has actually increased almost $17 million. Little change in the way we are capturing the data this year. There's no change in the definition of what is mandated versus non-mandated, but the way I got to present things does look a little different. And a big driver of this change is the dissolution of LDCs. With the dissolution, we have an opportunity going to 17 to plan some cash capital contributions. When these were part of an LDC contract payment, they probably would have been classified as mandated or non-mandated. Now that those contract payments are going away and the LDCs are not going to be purchasing capital-related items, the county will do it. I wanted to move that cash capital with debt service. We have an opportunity not to borrow for those types of equipment. We can use what the LDCs had been doing, which is setting aside money each year for a future purchase, and incorporate that. And part of the reason we did that, I did not want, in terms of a TPA calculation, this is a little theoretical. In terms of a TPA calculation, I did not want that local law to count against Monroe County for making sound financial decisions. And I have to say, it's my opinion that the strategic use of cash capital for future equipment purchases is sound financial planning. So that's a major change that you see on this overview page. Getting into the Department of Planning and Development, here's what's important to planning and development. This department, they help local businesses retain jobs and create new jobs. They help people find jobs or train for other jobs. They plan how best to use or preserve land in our county. And they help this community build a better community. This work is not done in a vacuum. They do collaborate with other local governments, city and our municipalities, and some not-for-profit agencies like a Greater Rochester Enterprise. When it comes to planning services, this department provides our community with information and mapping, some technical advice, project review. Their economic development activities are really focused on increasing the jobs in our community through incentive programs or approving projects that create investment in the community. For our community development, they focus on housing rehabilitation projects, public works projects, facilities projects in our participating towns and villages. And they also work to improve our local workforce. They identify current and future employment opportunities and work with our local employers to fill their needs. In In terms of a budget going into next year for our planning and development department, in terms of dollars, not a tremendous change from 2016. Total appropriations and the net county support required both have increased a little more than $100,000. I'm sure you have all read or heard the background about what has been going on within this department, the county executive's review, and a little bit of reshuffling due to better identification of the tasks to be performed and the staff available to perform those tasks. So rather than rehash what you may already know, I'll save that up for the Q&A session. How is the department funded? Well, hey, quite frankly, 42% of their funding comes from local property tax. We mentioned the workforce development initiatives fully funded by Rochester Works. I think many of you know we get reimbursements from COMITA and the MCIDC. They basically reimburse us for some tasks that county staff perform on their behalf. Part of that review process and reshuffling was a renegotiation between the county and the COMITA board on what they're going to reimburse the county. They do get a little bit of other grants. I'm thinking of like a GTC land use report grant. You'll see that referral throughout the year. And the community development block grant does also reimburse. And I'm sure you're going to all have a question on the community development block grant as we get into the Q&A session. Just a couple highlights going in for 17. I picked 3 highlights pretty much because they're a little removed from what we usually discuss on the floor here in the legislature, but they're not inconsequential. I mentioned this one, this first bullet, improving sport fishing promotion throughout the county. Actually, I kind of mentioned it last year, but I did a little research this year, and I was actually surprised that there is money in fishing. The Lake Ontario Counties organization has 3 trout and salmon derbies throughout the year. In 2016, they offered almost $140,000 in prize money. It attracted over 7,000 anglers from 42 different states. So even I learned something a little new this year. Also learned regarding marketing efforts for our foreign trade zone. I usually don't talk a lot about foreign trade zone, but I did learn that the greater Rochester region accounts for almost 6% of New York State's exports, and we are the second largest exporter we're the second largest exporting region in New York State. And regarding the public works and facilities projects in our participating towns and villages, 4 of those improve accessibility for those with disabilities or who are aged. I put down here roughly 16% of the county's population is over 65 years old, and 9% is under 65 with some type of disability. So combined, those with a disability under age 65 and our senior population account for more than a quarter of the county's population. So, Madam Chair, with that actually concludes my presentation for tonight. Thank you.
I will now open the floor for any questions regarding the planning and economic development portion of the budget. Yes, Madam Boyce. Sorry. Oh, man. Sorry about that, Legislator Boyce.
All right. Okay, through the chair, with regards to page 62 of the budget, I see that there is a line on page 62 for Frontier Field for in the 2016 2017 budget. Can you speak to that? Because I didn't see it in last year's budget, so I'm just wondering.
Madam Chair, that is correct. Page 62, the legislator has identified $500,000 of hotel motel tax being allocated to Frontier Field. I think you and the committee will recall that while the facility, the stadium, is leased to Grosefik for community baseball and other related events, Frontier Field is actually a building account. It's a county asset, and that asset is tracked within our building services fund. It's an internal service fund, and we have to appropriate funds for ongoing repairs and maintenance. Those costs are actually reimbursed to the county by Grosefik, but we do need an annual appropriation. We also undertake several capital improvement projects regarding Frontier Field to the infrastructure. That could be anything from electrical to plumbing to the steel beams that make up the canopy. Those are not reimbursed, generally speaking. And that building accounts for the annual debt service. We have about 9 years left on our debt service. So there is a net local county share to managing and owning Frontier Field, and this allocation is intended to offset a piece of that local share, similar to how we allocate funds for the Blue Cross Arena.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, can I continue?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Page 64, with regards to Cornell Cooperative Extension, we had an extra $30,000 in this year's budget. Can you tell me where that's derived from?
Madam Chair, in addition to a direct appropriation in the budget of $225,000 for Cornell Co-op Extension, last year and this year they met with us to advocate for a slightly higher allocation. They have some educational programming they would like to move forward in our community. Rather than increase their direct appropriation that you'll find in the cultural and educational section of this budget, we chose a different route last year, and that was to allocate a small piece of our hotel tax collection. Last year was $30,000, and after our meeting, we agreed to increase that by an additional $30,000.
Okay, thank you. All right, if I might, Madam Chair, I see there's 60 new projects that were approved through this year, through June of this year. And we talked about approximately 377 new jobs. Do we have a timeline for those jobs, and how many of those are permanent jobs?
Through you, Madam Chair, Jeff Adair, Director of Planning and Economic Development. The 60 new projects that we have on the books through June, 377 new jobs is a correct statement. That will be over 3 years.
Okay.
And all of those jobs are full-time and permanent.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any further questions? Yes, Legislator Moyle. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you and to the administration, on page under the 2015 accomplishments, there's mention of activities of Monroe County Commission. Is that still in existence?
Madam Chair, you'll like this. Yes and no. The Sports Commission is not, you may recall, they were a recipient of a direct allocation of our hotel tax collections. Their activities as a group, they're not an independent entity anymore. That group is now what we would call an advisory group to Visit Rochester. So Visit Rochester is the official agency that would take actions, and they take those actions under the advisement of the Sports Commission Board.
Thank you. So just to clarify, any spending that is related to the Sports Commission would come under the heading of Visit Rochester in this year's budget, is that correct? Through the chair, I'm not sure if I said that.
Madam Chair, that sounds reasonable, but I hadn't thought about it, so I'm not going to guarantee it. But if a question comes up later, feel free to ask.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pardon?
No, no, no.
Okay. So how much, through the chair to the administration, how much spending is expected to be done by the Sports Commission or by Visit Rochester in this budget?
Madam Chair, in this budget book does not contemplate the dollars associated with spending by Visit Rochester on sports activities.
And through the chair to the administration, when would we be notified of any sort of spending related to that?
Madam Chair, I guess I will couch that previous answer in that Visit Rochester is a recipient of hotel tax allocations. It's a little more than $3.2 million that was increased over prior years because they took on Sports Commission activities. Of the $3.2 million, I cannot tell this body what dollar amount will be related to sports activities.
Okay, I understand. Thank you very much. Moving to another portion of the budget on page 260, through the chair to the administration, Economic Development Division personnel services have gone up more than 30%. Can you account for that, please?
Madam Chair, actually, I mean, yes, it's roughly 1.5 FTEs in addition to this division. There were also 2 positions that their pay group was upgraded based on a review of the tasks that needed to be performed and the level of service that those tasks represent. I'll just, again, Madam Chair, couch that answer. Even though this division may have picked up a few FTEs, the department as a whole did not.
Further questions?
Are you done?
I'm done.
Yes, Legislator Kaler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to the administration. Here we are again. I just have a couple questions. And relating to, through you, when the funding from COMITA is increasing by roughly $200,000, there's still $52,000 of unfunded economic development costs. Why are we not increasing the funding from COMITA and MCIDC to fund the additional costs, to fully fund those costs, versus transferring them to the county?
Madam Chair, we are absolutely happy to look at that level of reimbursement on a year-to-year basis. This particular year, 2017, the reimbursement from COMITA was the result of direct negotiations between the county and the COMITA board, and this is what was agreed upon.
Okay, thank you. And moving on through the chair. On page 261, historically, community development activity has always been fully funded from the community development grant. And it appears in 2017 that the grant is dropping by just under $200,000, leaving the county to pick up a tab of $172. Could you address why, if you know why, we are down by that much?
Madam Chair, the answer is somewhat twofold and has been occurring over several years. Bottom line, administrative reimbursement from the Community Development Block Grant is decreasing due to caps set by the grantor, New York State. I would add that the budget for 2016 is a little high. The department, the grant does not follow the county's calendar year. They're on a different fiscal year. And over the course of several years, the administrative reimbursement from the grant to the county's calendar year expenses went out of sync. And they got into a situation where there was just reimbursement overlap between the grant years and the county calendar year. That is being corrected, and in conjunction with that, reimbursement is declining, so the 2017 budget is a more accurate reflection of where we think that's going to be.
Thank you. I think I understand it, but it brings up a different question. Then, if I'm understanding correctly through the chair, this is an adjustment making up the 172, and going forth into the next budget, it probably wouldn't be as wide a gap.
You know, looking into the future, Madam Chair, you know, I can't quite say with 100% certainty whether that is a correct assumption or not. I do expect, however, 2017 and forward to be around this level of reimbursement. I think if you look at 2015 actuals, it was about this dollar amount. It was actually a little less. And Madam Chair, I'm just going to throw in, before the next question gets out there, I'm reminded that overall the department's FTEs did increase 1.5. So I made an incorrect statement there.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then, since we have to make up through the chair the 172, how are we making that up?
Through the tax levy, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Legislator Boyce, did you have a question?
Very carefully. One of these days we'll be able to afford new microphones. Through the chair, if I might ask, can you give us an update, Mr. Adair, with regards to the Finger Lakes Hired initiative?
Madam Chair, yes, I can. The Finger Lakes Hired Initiative, the update on it as of right now is that we're just completing the first of 4 years in this initiative. And so far to date, we have 279 Monroe County residents enrolled in a program. Finger Lakes has hired 90 training, 7 on the job, 3 work experience. 52 people have so far found full-time employment. And from all indications for the first year of this, it looks as though we're going to exceed our expectations. Another 238 people in the surrounding 8 counties were also enrolled. 89 received training, 23 of them are on the job, and 6 have work experience. Is there anything else you'd like to know about
Just
that?
follow up through the chair. If you could give me a little bit more specifics as to maybe the top 3 demanding jobs in our region, if that's possible. If not,
yes, it would. Through you, Madam Chair, field of advanced manufacturing, healthcare, and information technology.
perfect. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none, moving on to the next item on our agenda. And thank you very much for that, Mr. Franklin. So the next item on the agenda is new business. Mr. Clerk.
Referral 16-0300, 8-year review of the Monroe County Agricultural.
Moved by Legislator Boyce, seconded by Legislator Anselmo. I'm having a bad time with names tonight. Sorry about that. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Are there any other matters to come before this committee? There being no other matters, thankfully, the November 28th, 2016 meeting of the Planning and Economic Development Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting of the Planning and Economic Development Committee will be held on Monday, December 19th, 2016 at 5:15 p.m.